The year was 474 after the birth of Christ, and the scene was set upon the shimmering waters of the Marble Sea, near the approaches to the grand city of Constantinople. Stretching endlessly to the horizon, a vast forest of masts filled the sky, creating a surreal and imposing panorama. This wasn't a convoy of merchant ships or a modest fleet of fishermen. It was something far more extraordinary, an armada unlike any the world had seen before. Hundreds, possibly thousands, of ships, ranging from heavy, formidable dromons to swift, agile shalans, advanced steadily toward the city that was known as the Queen of Cities. The air was thick with the salty tang of the sea breeze, yet amid this natural freshness lay an ominous undercurrent of fear and anticipation, almost palpable in the atmosphere. On the flagship, a young and ambitious caliph named Muawiyah, the founder of the Umayyad dynasty, stood resolutely. His confidence was unshaken. He believed that victory was within his grasp. Over the past 40 years, the armies of the Prophet had swept across the Middle East and North Africa like a blazing whirlwind, crushing the mighty Persian Empire and stripping away its richest provinces, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, from the remnants of the Roman legacy. Byzantium, the heir to Rome, had bled and weakened continually, its very foundations crumbling under the relentless assault. It appeared condemned to inevitable defeat. The empire was exhausted, the treasury nearly empty, and its armies demoralized by a series of humiliating losses. All human calculations pointed toward an imminent fall, a certainty that the great city would soon succumb. Yet, deep beneath the waves, hidden in the secret vaults within the depths of the Golden Horn harbour, the defenders of Byzantium prepared their final, desperate countermeasure. They had devised an extraordinary weapon, something unseen and beyond the realm of ordinary imagination. Born of despair and genius alike, this weapon was designed to turn the tide of battle in an instant, an invention that defied logic and natural law. As the Arab fleet arranged itself into battle formation and launched their assaults, a small but formidable contingent of Byzantine ships, called dromons, emerged from the gates of the harbour. The Arab forces greeted their appearance with scornful laughter, dismissing the brave remnants of the city's defences. However, that laughter froze abruptly, replaced first by astonishment, then by primal terror, horrific, inexplicable. From the copper-lined, bellows-shaped tubes aboard the Greek ships erupted torrents of living fire, accompanied by a deafening roar and crackling hissing. Against all known laws of nature, this fiery stream refused to be extinguished on contact with water. Instead, it spread voraciously across the sea surface, transforming the waters into a blazing inferno, a hellish scene of flames and chaos. The searing flames clung to the hulls of the ships, to the sails, and to the flesh of those on board, impossible to douse. The sea water only fanned the wrath of the inferno, causing it to intensify and spread further. The mighty Arab fleet, renowned across the world as the greatest navy of its era, was reduced to a monstrous pyre, a vast funeral pyre burning with unquenchable fury. The screams of terror and agony intertwined with the roaring of the flames and the cracking of splintering masts. Those who survived could hardly comprehend what had happened. Was this the breathing of some dragon, divine retribution, or a diabolical secret stolen from the depths of hell itself? No one knew at the time that this day would give birth to a legend, an enduring story of a secret weapon that would serve as Byzantium's strongest defense for nearly 7 centuries, standing as its final bastion against relentless enemies. The legend spoke of a technology, an incantation of science and magic that remains one of the most intriguing, mysterious, and untamed mysteries of human history. It came to be known as the Greek fire, the fiery substance that defied all explanation and remained unmatched in its destructive power. Before attempting to uncover the secrets of this legendary weapon, it is essential to understand the world from which it emerged. Mid-6th century Byzantium was but a shadow of its former glory. It had been a century since Emperor Justinian the Great aspired to restore the borders of the Roman Empire, aiming to revive its lost might and grandeur. The empire was then grappling with internal and external challenges, falling into a period of turmoil and decline, setting the stage for the remarkable yet ominous marvel that would etch itself into history forever. His generals, Belisarius and Narses, managed to reclaim Italy, North Africa, and parts of Spain from the barbarian tribes, stirring hopes of a restored empire. It seemed for a moment that the dream of restoring imperial glory was within reach. However, this final surge of imperial strength proved to be an exhausting effort that drained the entire state to its very limits. In the wake of Emperor Justinian's reign, a century of catastrophe followed, an era marked by devastating wars that pushed the Byzantine Empire to the brink of collapse. Continuous, grueling conflicts with the Sassanid Persians in the east, alongside constant warfare against the Goths and Slavs in the Balkans, gradually wore down the empire's resilience. At the dawn of the 7th century, the Persians succeeded in capturing regions such as Syria and Egypt. In the year 626, allied with Avars, they laid siege to Constantinople itself. Only through extraordinary efforts and immense strategic perseverance did Emperor Heraclius manage to turn the tide of these wars and secure a victory. Yet, this victory came at a heavy cost, one that proved to be ultimately Pyrrhic. The two superpowers of the time, Byzantium and Persia, were left shattered and weakened, exhausted from over half a century of relentless conflict. In that very moment when both of these giants had been gravely wounded and stood on the brink of ruin, a new and unexpected force emerged from the depths of the Arabian desert. This was a force driven by unwavering faith, namely the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. The Arab conquests unfolded at an astonishing, almost apocalyptic speed. In the year 636, at the Battle of Yarmouk, the Byzantine army was decisively defeated, losing control over Syria and Palestine in its aftermath. By the year 642, Egypt, which had been the empire's granary and one of its wealthiest provinces, fell into Arab hands. At the same time, the Sassanid Empire, once a formidable rival, crumbled and disintegrated rapidly. The Arabs, originally nomads of the desert, swiftly mastered naval warfare, building powerful fleets capable of challenging Byzantine dominance at sea. They began to push beyond land boundaries, disrupting Byzantine maritime supremacy. In the year 655, during what became known as the Battle of Masts off the coast of Latakia, the Arab fleet delivered a crushing blow to the Byzantine navy, which was commanded by none other than Emperor Constantine II. This naval victory effectively opened the way into the heartland of the empire, threatening its core territories. For the Byzantines, who regarded their empire as the sole true civilization, with the emperor seen as a divine representative on earth, these events were more than mere military setbacks. They represented a metaphysical shock, a profound upheaval that shattered their worldview and sense of security. Many believed that divine justice was being enacted. Their religion and the very land where Christ himself once walked now under threat from heretical forces. To them, these conquests seemed like punishment for sins, ominous signs signalling the imminent end of the world. Yet, beyond the spiritual despair, The harsh military reality could not be ignored. Byzantium was losing not only on land, but also at sea, a domain vital to its survival and prosperity. Naval combat at that time was relatively primitive and straightforward in its tactics. The primary strategy was boarding, similar to the practices of ancient Rome, where ships would close in on each other in fierce melee, firing arrows and stones using catapults and other missile weapons. Once close, the sailors and marines would engage in hand-to-hand combat. The use of rams, designed to smash into enemy vessels, was also common, although as shipbuilding technology advanced, their effectiveness gradually declined. Fire was employed as well. Typically, incendiary devices like flaming arrows, pitch-soaked, precisely aimed projectiles, and incendiary grenades. Although these methods were often unreliable and of limited impact in rough weather conditions. When the Arabs captured ports along the Syrian and Egyptian coasts, they inherited an experienced maritime workforce and highly skilled shipbuilders. Making good use of these resources, they quickly constructed a navy that could rival, and in some cases surpass, the Byzantine fleet, not just in size, but also in fighting spirit and tactical innovation. Their rapid development of naval power became a significant factor in challenging Byzantine dominance over Mediterranean waters, fundamentally shifting the balance of naval power in the region. In the waning days of the Byzantine Empire, there was an urgent, almost desperate search for something novel, some form of miraculous weapon that could tip the scales decisively in its favour and potentially alter the course of the ongoing conflict. The empire faced a dire need for an asymmetric response, a technological breakthrough that could counterbalance the overwhelming numerical superiority of its enemies. Amidst this atmosphere of peril and hopeful anticipation of a miracle, a figure emerged in Constantinople whose name would forever be linked with the creation of the most formidable weapon of the medieval era. Meanwhile, as the powerful Caliph Muawiyah was gathering his forces for an imminent decisive assault on the great city in the quiet depths of secret laboratories hidden within the imperial capital under the personal patronage of Emperor Constantine IV, a refugee from the conquered lands of Syria, a man named Kalinnik, an architect and alchemist, was working tirelessly. In bubbling retorts emitting thick, foul-smelling fumes, he combined various smoky substances, striving to forge a flame that could not be extinguished, an unstoppable fire capable of consuming entire fleets. The success or failure of his experiment was not merely a matter of personal fate. It could mean the salvation or collapse of the entire Christian civilization. Meanwhile, the empire was unraveling, its strength waning, while Arab mounted warriors polished their blades in anticipation of storming the city walls. Out of the ashes of the land lost to invaders, like a phoenix rising anew, a man appeared, one destined to ignite hope in the hearts of Byzantines and to challenge the very notion of conventional warfare. His name was Kalinnik, a Greek Christian from the city of Hierapolis, also known as Baalbek, an ancient settlement famed for its majestic temple complex. This city stood as a centre of Hellenistic learning and craftsmanship, a beacon of ancient knowledge amid the shifting tides of history. Historical chroniclers record Kalinnik as an architect, a term that, in his era, carried a much broader meaning than it does today. An architect of those times was simultaneously an engineer, a mechanic, and, notably, a chemist, what then was called an alchemist. He belonged to the learned circle of Alexandrian scholars who preserved and refined ancient wisdom in mechanics, pneumatics, and chemistry. When, around 634 years after the start of our era, his homeland fell under Arab control, Kalinnik refused to live under the rule of infidels. Rejecting submission, he decided to flee westward, seeking refuge in the still uncaptured territories of the empire. His journey ultimately brought him to Constantinople, a scene difficult to fully imagine today. Picture a weary refugee, exhausted after a long and perilous trek, having lost everything except his knowledge and skills, desperately seeking an audience with the imperial officials. But what he carried in his hands was not a plea for aid, rather it was a daring proposition. Kalinnik claimed he could invent a weapon of unparalleled power, liquid fire capable of incinerating entire fleets with ease. In a time filled with despair and the foreboding of inevitable defeat, such an assertion might have seemed like the hallucination of a madman. Yet, Emperor Constantine IV, a young and energetic ruler, was desperately seeking any means to escape this seemingly hopeless predicament. His eyes lit with a flicker of hope, and he decided to trust Kalinnik. The fugitive architect was granted unlimited resources, state-of-the-art workshops, rare materials, and the finest artisans of the city. The work on this formidable project was carried out in strict secrecy, shielded from prying eyes and ears. It was important to note that Kalinnik was not a pioneer of incendiary chemicals by trade. However, the history of using fire as a weapon was long and storied. The Assyrians, centuries earlier, had hurled clay pots filled with flaming petroleum toward their enemies. Greeks and Romans had developed mixtures based on sulfur, resin, bitumen, and saltpeter, employing them in warfare to devastating effect. During the Peloponnesian War, Spartans attempted to set Athens' walls ablaze using fire-launching mechanisms fueled by compounds like resin and sulfur, demonstrating the long-standing fascination with incendiary tactics in military history. Thus, the creation of this fire of legends, as it would later be called, was not a simple feat of alchemy or chemistry alone. It was an endeavour rooted in a centuries-old tradition, but adapted and refined for a new epoch, one where science, artistry, and warfare merged into a single, potentially revolutionary invention. Through his relentless work, Kalinnik sought to forge a weapon that could turn the tide of the siege, providing the Byzantines with a fighting chance against overwhelming odds. Byzantines, even before the advent of Greek fire, had already experimented with primitive forms of incendiary weapons over the centuries. However, these early devices were relatively weak and often unreliable, serving only as crude tools of warfare. The true genius of the Byzantine innovator named Kalinnik, however, did not lie solely in the invention of a single component. Instead, he masterminded an entire system, composed of three revolutionary elements that transformed incendiary warfare. The first element was a unique formula, a new, highly potent and stable combustible mixture. The precise composition of this blend remained a closely guarded secret, safeguarded from prying eyes and rival powers. Yet, as history later revealed, this mixture possessed extraordinary properties that elevated it far beyond ordinary incendiaries, turning it into a weapon of both terror and strategic dominance. Scientists and historians believe that this formula was a carefully balanced concoction, combining substances that ignited easily, burned fiercely, and could withstand variations in temperature and handling. The second element was an advanced delivery system. Kalinnik either invented a new or significantly improved upon existing devices for projecting the fiery mixture over substantial distances. It was not merely an ordinary container like a clay pot or a simple arrow tipped with combustible substance. Instead, it was a sophisticated mechanical apparatus, a nozzle, a pump, or a launcher designed specifically for this purpose. Such a device could propel the incendiary mixture through the air with incredible accuracy and force, ensuring that the fiery stream would reach the enemy ships or fortifications at a distance of dozens of meters. This technological leap was crucial as it allowed Byzantines to strike at their foes from a safe distance while maximizing destructive impact. The third, and perhaps most critical component, was the integration of this system onto a standard Byzantine warship, specifically the dromon, a warship built for naval combat. Kalinnik's skill was in effectively mounting this fiery weapon on a ship, transforming it into a mobile, floating flamethrower, a terrifying battlefield innovation. The ship now wielded what could be called a fire-throwing engine, capable of unleashing a relentless stream of conflagration against approaching enemy fleets. Experimental trials of this incendiary system must have been incredibly dangerous, involving substances that were highly flammable, volatile, and capable of spontaneous combustion. The mixture itself likely consisted of flammable liquids that burned with intense heat, producing clouds of thick black smoke and fierce flames. The process involved handling ingredients under high pressure in heated boilers with the constant risk of explosion. Any mistake, be it a miscalculated pressure, a faulty seal, or a careless moment, could result in catastrophic accidents, destroying not only the laboratory where the device was developed, but also putting the lives of the inventors at mortal risk. Nevertheless, through relentless trial and error, Kalinnik and his team gradually moved closer to their objective. They developed a viscous, dark, and foul-smelling liquid, which, when exposed to air or water, would burst into uncontrollable flames. Their work included designing and constructing complex systems of pumps, tubes, and boilers, capable of building up and releasing high-pressure jets of this infernal substance across vast distances. They also devised methods to protect their ships and crews from the very destructive power of their own weapon, ensuring that the incendiary spray would do what it was supposed to: engulf enemy ships in a blazing inferno, without setting their own vessels ablaze. By the years 672 and 673, on the eve of a decisive confrontation with the Arab fleet off the coast of Asia Minor, the new weapon was finally ready. It had acquired several names, sometimes called sea fire, liquid fire, or simply artificial fire. Yet history would remember it under a much more ominous title, the one bestowed upon it by its enemies, the Crusaders, who found themselves scorched and humiliated in its fiery wake. It became known as Greek fire, a name that struck terror into the hearts of all who faced it. Emperor Constantine IV relied heavily on this innovation, placing his hopes in the genius of this refugee inventor. The success of that gamble was about to be tested, and the fate of the Christian world seemed to hang in the balance. The Byzantine fleet, equipped with dozens of these flame-throwing dromons, was poised, waiting for the order to unleash the inferno. The entire conflict now depended on whether Kalinnik's infernal device would function successfully in actual combat, whether it would unleash destruction on an unprecedented scale, and whether it would secure victory for the Byzantines. So, what exactly was Greek fire? Why did it inspire such horror and dread? How could a substance or system remain unimitated for over 7 centuries? Although the precise recipe was lost to history, its secrecy maintained through the analysis of Byzantine and Arab chronicles, military treatises, and what modern science can reconstruct, we can attempt some understanding of this legendary technology. It's essential to grasp that Greek fire was not merely a single chemical compound, but a complex, integrated weapon system. Let us break down this system into its key components. The first is the substance itself, the secret recipe, a highly guarded formula containing the critical elements. This formula represented the core of the entire system, the most mysterious part of the weapon. the Byzantines kept its composition under lock and key, confiding it only to a select few. According to historical records, Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenitus, in his instructional writings to his son Romanos, mentioned that the secret recipe was revealed to the first Christian emperor, Constantine the Great, by an angel, an indication of how sacred and secret this knowledge was considered in Byzantine culture. Disclosing the secret behind Greek fire was considered an unforgivable sin, an act of betrayal that carried grave consequences. This legend, quite obviously, was part of a broader state propaganda effort aimed at sanctifying their weaponry and preventing sensitive information from leaking out. However, even amidst this secrecy, scientists and historians have attempted to analyze the properties of the fire, drawing several educated hypotheses about its composition based on historical records and physical characteristics. It is most likely that the core of the mixture was based on either raw petroleum or naphtha, given its naturally flammable qualities. The Byzantines had access to natural oil deposits in regions around the Caucasus and Mesopotamia, known since ancient times for their combustive properties. Yet, crude oil alone does not possess the full range of terrifying traits attributed to Greek fire, so additional components must have been incorporated to achieve its legendary lethality. To ensure the mixture's viscosity and stickiness so that it would adhere to surfaces and resist being wiped away, various thickeners were probably added. Substances like pine resin or other tree resins, such as colophony, were likely included because they not only increased the density of the compound, making it more fabric and surface attaching, but also elevated the temperature and prolonged the duration of the flames. These sticky, fiery masses could cling tenaciously to ships, shields, or fortifications, and once ignited, they proved almost impossible to extinguish. Furthermore, burning agents were probably introduced to amplify the intensity of the flames. Sulfur, in particular, could have been used due to its capacity to increase combustion temperature and duration. When burned, sulfur releases a choking vapor of sulfur dioxide, turning the fire into a potent chemical weapon with a toxic, suffocating effect on those exposed. One of the most intriguing and debated features of Greek fire relates to its resistance to water. Indeed, many sources unanimously assert that it could not be extinguished with water. Some accounts even note that water caused the flames to intensify, burning more fiercely. This phenomenon hints at the presence of reactive substances in the mixture that not only resisted water, but reacted violently upon contact, releasing heat and flammable gases. The most probable candidate for this key component is quicklime, or calcium oxide. When mixed with water, quicklime undergoes an exothermic reaction, generating a substantial amount of heat capable of igniting other ingredients within the mixture, such as sulfur, and intensifying the fire. An even more exotic hypothesis supposes the inclusion of calcium phosphide, which, upon contact with water, releases phosphine gas, a highly flammable, spontaneously combustible substance that ignites in the presence of air. Some researchers speculate that the mixture might also have contained an oxidizer like saltpeter, known scientifically as potassium nitrate or niter. When heated, nitrates release oxygen, dramatically increasing the combustion's intensity. Such a component would allow the mixture to burn underwater, or, at the very least, make its flames much more vigorous and difficult to quell. If this were the case, Byzantine engineers would have been on the verge of inventing a form of early liquid propellant, resembling a precursor to gunpowder, but used in a liquid state instead of in solid powder form. In light of these various factors, the most plausible composition of Greek fire can be described as a sophisticated, multi-component, distillation-based mixture, primarily derived from refined petroleum products and augmented with natural resins to thicken and stabilize the compound. Sulfur was likely added to boost its combustive power, while components such as quicklime or nitrates could have been incorporated to give it its remarkable water-resistant and incendiary properties. Essentially, it was a medieval precursor to napalm, an incendiary weapon designed to cling and burn relentlessly. The delivery system of Greek fire was equally innovative, represented by devices known as siphons or chirosiphons. Simply possessing a highly flammable mixture was only half the battle. It needed an effective method of deployment to maximize its destructive potential. This is where Byzantine engineers truly excelled, inventing a revolutionary delivery mechanism, the siphon, a kind of ancient flamethrower mounted on ships or fortifications. This device allowed them to project streams of burning liquid onto enemy ships or fortresses from a distance, turning fire into an actively offensive weapon in naval battles and sieges, and providing the Byzantines with a strategic advantage that persisted for centuries. Based on descriptions and illustrations found in various manuscripts, such as the famous Madrid manuscript attributed to John Scalitza, it becomes evident that the device in question was remarkably complex. It was composed of several intricately interconnected components, each playing a vital role in its operation. Central to this contraption was a bronze cauldron, in which a combustible mixture was heated under pressure. The heating process was likely essential not only to maintain the mixture's fluidity, but also to generate the necessary pressure for its effective discharge. Connected to this was a system of pipes and a manual pump, an apparatus reminiscent of blacksmith's bellows, designed to pump air into the vessel, thereby increasing the internal pressure. This setup allowed the operator, with skill and precision, to control the flow of the fiery liquid. A specially designed gate valve or rotating tap enabled the operator to regulate the stream's release, while a nozzle or lance, sometimes ornately decorated with the carved head of a roaring lion or a fierce dragon, served as the conduit through which the flame-laden liquid was expelled outward with force. The visual effect of such adornments, combined with the roaring sound emitted during firing, created an intimidating spectacle that heightened the psychological impact on enemies. This entire system was mounted either on the prow or along the sides of swift, warlike ships known as dromons. These vessels, built for speed and agility, had specially reinforced bows to accommodate the mounting and firing of these incendiary devices. The crew member responsible for operating this deadly weapon was known as a Siphonia, an elite warrior and engineer trained extensively in the device's mechanics, chemistry, and handling. When preparing to attack, the Siphonia would aim the nozzle directly at the target vessel or fortification, open the valve, and unleash a devastating jet of fire and burning liquid. Witness accounts describe that the sound accompanying the discharge resembled a thunderous explosion, accompanied by the roar of a hurricane, most likely caused by the rapid vaporization and ignition of volatile components within the mixture, such as oils and flammable liquids derived from the sea or the land. The effective range of this incendiary stream was estimated to be about 15 to 20 meters. While seemingly short, this distance was sufficient in the context of the close quarters naval battles typical of the era, where ships engage at relatively short ranges, often within arm's length. As time progressed, in the 10th century, portable handheld flamethrowers, referred to as chirosiphones, were developed. These were compact, manageable devices that could be wielded by a single soldier, making them versatile tools on both land and sea. Such devices likely proved invaluable during boarding actions or when defending fortress walls, allowing a soldier to deliver a fiery attack directly onto enemies or attackers. Beyond the systematic use of these siphons, the Byzantines employed a variety of other incendiary tactics. For example, they threw clay or glass vessels, essentially primitive grenades, filled with combustible mixtures using catapults. These fire pots acted as medieval incendiary cocktails, effectively bombarding besieging armies or attackers, and they played a crucial role during sieges, whether launched from the besiegers or defenders. The explosive power, combined with the spread of fire from breaking vessels or the igniting of the contents, created chaos and destruction in close combat situations. All of this, ranging from secret chemical formulations and metallurgical innovations to highly trained operators, represented the pinnacle of military technology available in the Byzantine Empire at that time. The entire system demanded a profound understanding of chemistry, metallurgy, mechanics, and shipbuilding. The complexity and interdisciplinary nature of this weaponry are precisely why the secret formula for Greek fire, or liquid fire, was never fully deciphered or successfully duplicated by enemies. While opponents could occasionally seize a vessel or a container with the mixture, they lacked the comprehensive technological know-how to reproduce the entire chain of manufacturing and deployment. This formidable weapon was thus accessible only to a civilization with highly advanced industrial capabilities, such as Byzantium, which had mastered numerous arts and sciences. The invention of Constantine Kalinnikos, the presumed creator of this fire discharge apparatus, appeared at a crucial moment in history. By the year 674, the Caliph Muawiyah had completed preparations and launched the first recorded instance of a total war aimed at annihilating the Byzantine Empire. This was no ordinary raid or raid-like assault. It was a systematic and methodical campaign of devastation. The Arabs seized the Cyzicus Peninsula in the Marble Sea, transforming it into their strategic base of operations just a few dozen kilometers from Constantinople. From this vantage point, their formidable fleet could blockade the imperial capital and conduct daring raids into its vicinity. Their plan was both simple and terrifying in its ambition: to wear down the city through relentless attacks, cut off all lines of supply and reinforcement, and ultimately conquer it through a combination of starvation and assault. The strategy reflected a sophisticated understanding of siege warfare, aiming to weaken the defences and morale of the city gradually until its surrender became inevitable. This campaign marked the beginning of a new and brutal chapter in the ongoing conflict between Byzantium and its foes, with the threat of fire-based weapons and siege tactics becoming central to the struggle. The 4-year siege had begun, an exhausting and relentless ordeal that would test the resilience of the defenders of Constantinople. With each passing spring, as soon as the weather permitted, the Arab fleet would glide towards the city's formidable walls, launching brutal attacks that grew more intense with every season. The Byzantine navy, considerably outnumbered and less numerous, would come out from their harbours to meet this onslaught. Little did the Arab forces anticipate what awaited them beyond mere conquests and battles, a terrifying, almost supernatural weapon that would turn the tide of history. The chronicler Theophanes the Confessor, who lived a century later but drew upon earlier sources, vividly describes these events. He recounts that the Byzantines, prepared with fiery siphons, early forms of incendiary devices, set ablaze the Arab ships along with their crews in a terrifying spectacle. The Arabs, filled with fear, witnessed a kind of inferno they could neither understand nor counter. To better grasp this scene, imagine yourself as an Arab sailor on your vessel, confident in victory. Your ship is surrounded by thousands of your comrades, ready to board the enemy's vessel and claim a rich prize. You race towards the Byzantine ship, anticipation swelling, until suddenly from the bow of the Byzantine galley, a bronze lion's mouth erupts with a deafening roar. Out shoots a fiery serpent, an unearthly blaze, directly at your vessel. A torrent of dark, sticky liquid spews forth, striking the deck and masts, coating your comrades in flames. Almost immediately, the ship erupts into a fiery inferno. The flames are unlike any ordinary fire. They glow with an eerie green or orange tint, emanating a terrible, acrid smell. Thick, black smoke billows out, darkening the sky and choking the air, making it impossible to breathe. Your desperate efforts to douse the flames with buckets of water only seem to feed the fire further, causing it to hiss and crackle with greater fury. The flames creep across the water's surface, encircling your ship in a ring of fire, cutting off all escape routes. The wood, dry and aged, burns as if it were made of gunpowder. In panic, your fellow sailors, engulfed by the inferno, leap overboard, screams of terror trailing behind them. Yet many are caught even as they plunge into the sea. Fire clings to their bodies, turning the water around into a deadly cauldron. This was no ordinary battlefield. It resembled a scene of hell unleashed upon the earth. The psychological terror inflicted was just as powerful as the physical destruction. The Byzantine secret weapon, known as Greek fire, cast a spell of superstitious dread across the Arab ranks. Brave warriors who faced death in combat found themselves paralyzed by fear when confronted with this mysterious and seemingly satanic flame. Its origins and mechanisms remained a complete mystery to the Muslim forces. They couldn't understand nor devise effective defences against its deadly onslaught. Each assault ended in catastrophe for the Arabs, loss after loss, retreat after retreat. After the Byzantines, nimble and swift ships dubbed dromons, moved swiftly amid the sluggish and unwieldy Arab vessels, unleashing death and destruction with precision and fury. After every failed attack, the Arab fleet would withdraw back to their base on the island of Chios, regrouping and repairing their ships, only to prepare for another spring assault. This brutal cycle persisted for nearly 4 years. By the year 768, the Arab forces had become utterly drained and demoralized. Most of their fleet had been destroyed or rendered unusable, and their land armies operating across Asia Minor had suffered crushing defeats. The Caliph Muawiyah, facing mounting losses and hopelessness, was compelled to acknowledge defeat. He not only lifted the blockade, but also sought peace treaties, accepting humiliating terms. The agreement stipulated that the caliphate would pay a yearly tribute of 3,000 gold coins. Additionally, they were required to send 50 slaves and 50 purebred horses each year, a modest but symbolically significant price for ending the siege. This marked the first major halt in Arab expansion into Europe, a turning point that changed the course of history. The victory of Constantine IV was an unequivocal triumph. Greek fire had not only protected Constantinople, but potentially preserved all of Europe from Arab conquest. Its effectiveness proved monstrous and undeniable. A weapon born in the mind of a Syrian refugee had become the greatest guarantee of the empire's safety. The legend of Greek fire quickly spread across the world, inspiring awe and relentless fascination. What once appeared as a dying empire now roared back to life, boasting a form of technological warfare unparalleled anywhere else. Byzantine ingenuity had once again demonstrated its capability to defend and even restore its greatness, wielding a secret weapon that no one else on earth could replicate. The enemies of the empire learned their lesson thoroughly and for a long time. As long as Emperor Romaev held the secret weapon of their liquid fire, the city's defences remained unbreakable. virtually impregnable. Yet, as history would later reveal, foes tend to remember their defeats, but often forget the reasons behind them. Only 40 years later, a new and even more formidable fleet would approach the city's walls, ready once again to test the wrath of Greek fire and to challenge its seemingly invincible fortifications. It seemed that the lesson learned from the Arab siege at Constantinople's walls had been quite effective. For several decades, a fragile peace reigned across the Aegean Sea, but the Arab Caliphate's ambitions did not fade away. Their ultimate dream of capturing the legendary city of the Byzantine Empire remained alive, buried only temporarily beneath the surface of diplomatic patience. They merely waited for an opportune moment to strike, and that moment arrived in the early part of the 6th century, during a period of chaos known as the 20-year-long anarchy that plunged Byzantium into turmoil. During this time, emperors succeeded one another at an exceptionally rapid pace, often through violent palace coups, leaving the empire weakened and disorganized. Caliph Suleiman recognized that the time for revenge had come. He gathered his forces, surpassing in size and strength those which Muawiyah had once led. Arabic sources talk about an army of 200,000 warriors and a fleet, according to different accounts, numbering from 1,800 to 2,500 vessels. This was the greatest military expedition since the Persian Wars, a colossal enterprise of warfare and strategy. The goal was clear: the complete destruction of the Byzantine Empire, eradication of its strength and influence. Yet, Byzantium was no longer what it once was. On the imperial throne now sat one of its greatest military and political leaders, Leo II, and Sava, as he was known. He ascended to power just as the invasion was imminent and managed to prepare the capital's defences to withstand the impending assault. His most formidable weapon, much like that of his predecessor, Constantine IV, was the legendary Greek fire. In August of that year, the enormous Arab army, under the command of Maslama ibn Abd al-Malik, the brother of the Caliph, approached the land walls of Constantinople, while the navy, led by Admiral Suleiman, entered the Marble Sea. The Arabs were confident in their victory. They remembered the destructive power of Greek fire and relied heavily on their overwhelming numbers, believing that they could counter its effects with sheer force. Admiral Suleiman, however, resolved not to repeat the mistakes of his predecessors. Instead, he sought to cut off the city's vital supply route, the Golden Horn, by blocking its entrance immediately. A portion of the fleet was dispatched to seize the harbour's mouth. Emperor Leo II was awaiting this moment. As soon as the Arab ships drew near, he ordered the massive chain that guarded the entrance to the Golden Horn to be lifted, enabling the Byzantine fleet to take action. The Arabs, believing in their imminent victory and possibly mistaking the Byzantines' deliberate inaction for surrender, pushed their ships forward, and then they fell into a trap. From the depths of the harbour, Byzantine drames, large fire-breathing vessels, suddenly surged forward, armed with siphons designed to spew Greek fire. The scene that followed was a repeat, yet far more horrific and devastating than before. The chronicler Theophanes describes it vividly. Emperor Leo, utilizing a mixture of artificial fire and combustible substances, set ablaze the incoming enemy ships, sending them and their crews to the bottom of the sea. The narrow entrance to the harbour transformed into a fiery crucible, a hellish furnace of destruction. Flaming ships, caught in the inferno, collided with each other, accelerating the spread of fire and chaos. The vanguard of the Arab fleet was nearly wiped out entirely. The remnants of their forces, terrified and in disarray, were forced to retreat in panic. This initial victory, the most crucial phase of the naval confrontation, was achieved by the Byzantines and held immense strategic significance. It demonstrated vividly that Greek fire, employed with skill and daring, could turn the tide of battle, even against an overwhelmingly larger enemy force. For a time, it bought the city's defenders crucial hours, and the beacon of hope shone brightly amid the surrounding darkness of war. The Golden Horn remained firmly in Byzantine hands, which was a crucial advantage because it allowed the empire to maintain communication with the outside world and sustain the besieged city. Meanwhile, the Arab fleet was forced to retreat and spend the winter in exposed harbours, where it suffered from severe weather conditions and relentless attacks by Byzantine partisans operating from the shores. On land, the forces of Maslama, who had laid siege to the city, also encountered extreme difficulties. As previously noted, that winter turned out to be extraordinarily harsh and unforgiving, bringing about not only cold and snow, but also famine and the spread of deadly epidemics among the besieging army. By the coming spring of the year 718, tremendous reinforcements arrived from Egypt and Ifriqiya, which is in North Africa. According to chroniclers, 2 new Arab fleets, comprising remarkably large numbers, some sources claim as many as 800 ships, had been assembled and sent to support the besieging forces. These fleets carried vital supplies of food to alleviate the desperate hunger afflicting the Arab army, as well as new troops eager to continue the fight. For the Arabs, this hope for salvation represented their last strategic chance. Yet even at this critical moment, the legendary Greek fire struck decisively. News of the approaching enemy fleets, possibly informed by Christian deserters serving on Arab ships, prompted Emperor Leo II to take swift action. He sent his own fiery fleet to confront the invaders. Byzantine warships, the dreaded dromons, swiftly engaged the enemy as they approached the Sea of Marmara. The new Arab fleets, caught off guard and unprepared for such a formidable response, were promptly attacked and set ablaze, with many ships burned to the waterline, just as had happened to earlier Arab flotillas. This crushing victory played a decisive role in ending the siege once and for all. With the loss of naval support and suffering tremendous losses on land, due to starvation, disease, and constant raids by Slavic and Bulgarian allies within Byzantium, the Arab besiegers realized that their position had become untenable. On the 15th of August in the year 718, exactly 1 year after the beginning of the siege, the great attempt to capture Constantinople ended in a total and humiliating defeat for the Arabs. This catastrophe was without precedent in the history of the empire. Out of an army numbering around 200,000 soldiers and a fleet of over 2,500 ships, only a small remnant returned home, battered and depleted. The losses inflicted upon the Umayyad Caliphate were so devastating that for many decades afterward, they abandoned any hopes of launching another campaign to seize Constantinople. Once again, Greek fire had saved the empire from falling into enemy hands. It became a true fiery shield of what was called the Second Rome, symbolizing Byzantine technological superiority and divine protection. The victory of Leo II held remarkable global historical significance. It halted the Arab expansion into southeastern Europe and provided Byzantium with a vital respite necessary for recovery and eventual counter-offensive. The legend of Byzantine's invincible weapon, fueled by this triumph, became deeply rooted in the collective consciousness of peoples, allies, and foes alike. The victorious defense of Constantinople in 2 grand sieges elevated Greek fire from mere weaponry to a strategic asset of utmost national importance. Throughout subsequent centuries, it remained the centerpiece of Byzantine diplomacy and the primary weapon of its fleet. Possessing this exclusive technology allowed Byzantium often inferior in numbers, to dominate the seas and inspire dread among its enemies. The secret of Greek fire's production was guarded as jealously as modern states safeguard their nuclear secrets. How was Byzantium able to maintain a monopoly on this formidable weapon for nearly 700 years? The answer lay in a complex system of measures designed to preserve its secrecy. First and foremost was the state monopoly itself. The production of Greek fire was concentrated exclusively within imperial control. In Constantinople, specialized secret laboratories and arsenals operated, most likely located near the naval base in the district of Nicaea, where access was strictly restricted and closely monitored. These facilities were shrouded in mystery, and only a handful of trusted officials and scientists knew the exact methods of creating the incendiary mixture, which remained a closely guarded state secret for centuries. Secondly, the circle of those truly in the know remained extremely narrow and exclusive. The knowledge of the recipes and technological secrets was passed down solely within a small, closed group of specialists, an elite rank of engineers and technologists who operated within what was known as the laboratories. These individuals took a solemn oaths of secrecy, binding them to silence about their work, and any breach of this oath was met with the most severe punishment, death itself. This rigorous confidentiality contributed to the mystique and the formidable aura surrounding this craftsmanship. Thirdly, the sanctification of the secret played a critical role in safeguarding the knowledge. As mentioned earlier, an official myth was carefully constructed around a divine origin of the weapon. In a testament to this, Emperor Constantine the Faithful, in his treatise on imperial governance, addressed to his son, explicitly forbade, under threat of divine retribution, the divulgence of Greek fire to foreigners, even if such requests were made in exchange for marital alliances or other significant favours. He instructed his son that the secret was divinely bestowed. It was said to have been discovered by an angel and entrusted to the greatest Christian emperor, Constantine. According to the legend, upon receiving this divine gift, the emperor decreed that a curse should be engraved in the altar of the temple, warning any future holder of the secret that to pass it to outsiders would invoke divine wrath. This religious and legendary framing served to deepen the sacrosanct status of the knowledge and made betrayal not just a political or military breach, but a sacrilege. Fourthly, the complexity of the technology itself added another layer of security. As we discussed, even if enemies managed to seize samples of the mixture, they could not reproduce the entire system. The weapon was not merely a chemical concoction, it was a sophisticated mechanical apparatus, an intricate siphon mechanism integrated into the system. This mechanical complexity meant that merely copying the chemical formula or the appearance of the mixture was insufficient to recreate the weapon. After the Arab armies experienced the power of Byzantine superweapons, other foes also sought to understand and replicate it. Among these opponents were the Rus, or Rus, ancestors of the Eastern Slavs, who the Byzantines knew as brave warriors and pirates. In the 10th century, they launched several significant raids on Constantinople itself. The most dramatic of these incursions occurred in the year 941, during the campaign led by the Kievan prince Igor Rurikovich. According to Byzantine accounts, his enormous fleet, comprising, as described by the Byzantines, thousands of single-sail ships, appeared suddenly at the entrance of the Bosporus. At that time, the primary Byzantine fleet was engaged in fighting the Arabs in the Aegean Sea, creating a sense of chaos and panic within the imperial capital. Fortunately, the Grand Chamberlain, or Protostrator, Theophan, managed to assemble an improvised fleet of only 15 old, semi-dilapidated ships, types known as Hillandian and Draman, equipped them with siphons, and boldly confronted the invaders. This makeshift but daring response yielded astonishing results. An Italian envoy named Lude Pant from Cramer, who witnessed the event firsthand, left an extraordinary account. He described how the Byzantines began to hurl the fiery mixture in all directions, unleashing torrents of the legendary Greek fire. The Rus, witnessing this fiery onslaught, preferred to cast themselves into the sea rather than burn alive. Many, burdened with heavy armour and helmets, immediately sank beneath the waves. Those who survived the initial attack fled in terror, but their escape was short-lived. On land, they soon faced retribution. Prince Igor suffered a crushing defeat, retreating back to Kiev with only a small remnant of his forces. A humiliating and costly failure. Once again, Greek fire played a decisive role in defending Constantinople. This formidable weapon was not confined solely to defensive purposes. It was actively employed in offensive military campaigns and civil conflicts within the empire. For instance, during the Grand Uprising of Thomas the Slav, spanning the years 821 to 823, the rebel fleet laid siege to Constantinople. Yet, in a decisive move, the imperial navy used Greek fire to destroy the insurgent fleet completely, ensuring the city's survival against the rebellion. Of course, this secret was anything but unchallenged. The enemies of Byzantium did not remain passive. They actively sought to decode and replicate this extraordinary weapon. The Arabs, boasting advanced scientific knowledge, eventually developed their own incendiary mixtures, based on petroleum derivatives, which they called naft, a substance inspired by or related to the Greek fire, but distinctly different in composition and technology. Their efforts reflected a continuous arms race, with each side striving to dominate with means of fiery destruction that seemed almost magical in their destructive power. For centuries, the Byzantine Empire relied heavily on a secret and deadly weapon known as Greek fire, a substance that played a pivotal role in maintaining their maritime dominance and military superiority. The Byzantines experimented with various devices, such as grenades and catapults, in an attempt to create effective weapons similar to their legendary invention. Despite these efforts, they never succeeded in developing an exact counterpart to the famed Byzantine siphon, a device that allowed them to project this fiery substance onto enemy ships from a distance. Their mixtures, it seems, lacked at least one crucial property: the ability to burn even on water, making Greek fire an almost unstoppable naval weapon. In response to the threat, they devised several protective measures. Ships were reinforced by covering their hulls with raw animal hides, or with felt soaked in vinegar, aiming to prevent the fiery mixture from adhering and igniting their vessels. On their decks, they kept barrels filled with sand, and also with vinegar, under the belief that, unlike water, vinegar might help extinguish fires. Although inventive, these tactics were only stopgap solutions, insufficient against a direct attack from a Greek fire-equipped siphon, which remained nearly impossible to defend against effectively. Throughout nearly 5 centuries, spanning from the 6th to the 10th century, the Greek fire system was instrumental in cementing Byzantine naval dominance. It granted the empire control over critical maritime arteries, safeguarded its capital city, and allowed them to project power well beyond their borders. It became a symbol of the resilience of their empire, an emblem of their technological ingenuity, and a divine right bestowed upon them by fate itself, reinforcing the perception of the Second Rome as an unbreakable fortress. However, as with all mighty powers, even the most formidable weapons have their sunset. The centuries-long reliance on Greek fire created a collective assumption that it would remain an invincible tool forever. Yet by the 10th century, references to its use in historical chronicles began to dwindle. Over time, mentions of Greek fire disappeared altogether, leaving one to wonder what caused the decline of such a terrifying and highly secretive weapon. Its disuse is as enigmatic as its formulation, for it was not a sudden event but a gradual fading, mirrored by the overall decline of the Byzantine Empire itself. The first major factor in this decline was the deterioration of the Byzantine navy. Maintaining a large, active fleet equipped with complex and costly weapons required tremendous resources and centralized authority, an arrangement that was increasingly strained. Beginning in the late 10th century, after the period of extensive conquests under the Macedonian dynasty, the empire descended into a phase of feudal fragmentation and internal civil conflicts. Emperors from the Komnenos dynasty, such as Alexius, John II, and Manuel I, attempted to sustain the navy at a reasonable level. Nonetheless, their successors from the Angelus family gradually neglected it altogether. They favoured economizing by hiring ships from Italian maritime republics, particularly Venice and Genoa, rather than maintaining their own fleet. A Byzantine historian named Niketas Choniates lamented with bitterness that by the end of the 10th century, the imperial fleet had effectively been plundered. Its ships fell into disrepair, shipyards lay deserted, and experienced sailors and siphon operators lost their skills. Without a capable navy to carry and deliver Greek fire, the weapon had little practical use, rendering its strategic advantage meaningless. The second significant reason for the weapon's decline was the loss of critical raw materials needed for its production. The ingredients for Greek fire, believed to primarily include petroleum or a similar combustible substance, were sourced from specific regions within the empire's eastern frontiers, namely the Caucasus, the Taman Peninsula, and possibly Mesopotamia. These regions, rich in natural resources, provided the necessary materials for manufacturing the fiery composition. However, during the 10th century, the Byzantines faced setbacks, most notably the loss of control over much of Asia Minor due to invading Seljuk Turks. This loss meant diminished access to the essential ingredients and a subsequent decline in production capabilities of Greek fire. In summary, the disappearance of Greek fire was not the result of a single event, but a complex process driven by military, economic, and territorial decline. The deterioration of the navy, the erosion of resource access, and the broader geopolitical upheavals weakened the empire's ability to sustain such an advanced and secret weapon, one that had once symbolized Byzantine ingenuity and dominance over the seas. As time passed, the once feared fire that helped forge an empire's maritime supremacy faded into legend, its secrets lost to history alongside the empire's waning power. The loss of crucial resources could have severely hindered or even completely halted the production of this deadly substance. Without access to petroleum, the manufacture of Greek fire, a legendary and formidable incendiary weapon, became impossible. The third reason for its disappearance was the loss of technological knowledge. The intricate process involved in creating and utilizing Greek fire was extraordinarily complex, requiring a steady supply of highly skilled specialists such as chemists, engineers, metallurgists, and siphon operators. Over the centuries, due to the overall decline of science and craftsmanship, driven by political instability and economic upheaval, these specialized knowledge bases could have been entirely lost. The secretive guild of laboratory masters, custodians of the weapon's secrets, might have vanished altogether. Its members could have perished amid the chaos of ongoing rebellions, or died without passing their knowledge onto the next generation, or simply dispersed without purpose once their craft was no longer in demand. A fourth devastating blow came in the form of the catastrophic event known as the Fourth Crusade, which dealt a death blow to Byzantium's superweapon. Most likely, in 1204, the final sentence was passed upon the legendary weapon's survival. That year, the crusading army, originally assembled to fight against Muslim forces in Egypt, was deceptionfully diverted by Venetian manipulations towards the conquest and looting of their Christian ally, Constantinople. What happened next became one of the greatest tragedies in history. The city, known for 1,000 years as a bastion of Christianity and civilization, was stormed, pillaged, and subjected to a brutal 3-day sack that surpasses all previous barbaric invasions in scale and cruelty. The city was set on fire, its sacred sites desecrated, priceless artworks and manuscripts were either destroyed or carried away to the west. It was amid this chaos, during the fires and destruction, that the last custodians of the secret of Greek fire almost certainly perished. Their secret arsenals and laboratories were ransacked and burned to the ground. The engineers and technicians who knew the craft either fell in the violence or fled, leaving their knowledge lost forever. The Byzantine Empire fractured into several warring states, each fighting for survival. When, in 1261, the Byzantines finally recaptured Constantinople, the empire that emerged was a weakened, impoverished remnant of its former self. The possibility of restoring the ancient technology of Greek fire had been forever lost. Its secret, sealed in history, vanished beyond recovery. A fifth reason for the weapon's disappearance was the advent of a new superweapon that would forever change the nature of warfare. By the 10th century, a revolutionary form of armament appeared on the global stage: gunpowder and artillery. Cannons, initially firing stone balls and later iron projectiles, proved far more effective and destructive than any fire thrower. They could breach the thickest fortress walls from considerable distances, transforming siege warfare itself. In the face of this technological leap, the medieval incendiary weapon, with its limited range and complex application, seemed outdated and obsolete. The era of naval fire throwers swiftly ended, giving way instead to the dominance of shipboard artillery. Even if Byzantium had managed to preserve the secret of Greek fire, by then it would have been of little use, overshadowed by the new and far more powerful weaponry. Ultimately, in 1543, the walls of Constantinople fell, not under the assault of a fleet, but through the destructive bombardment of massive cannons wielded by Sultan Mehmed II, the Conqueror. This event marked the definitive end of the mysterious weapon of the Middle Ages. Greek fire was born in a time of dire peril, serving as a shield for an empire's strength for over 7 centuries, before vanishing into history along with its creators, taking its secrets and mysteries with it into the depths of the past. What remnants of Greek fire remain in our era today? Only legends, scattered references within ancient chronicles, and a few obscured images found in medieval manuscripts. While we can develop more or less plausible theories about its composition and mechanism, the precise formula, the exact recipe that made Greek fire such a formidable weapon, has likely been lost forever. The secret, fiercely guarded by Byzantine emperors for centuries, has been preserved so well that it hardly yields to any modern attempts at reconstruction. Yet, the legacy of Greek fire extends far beyond its chemical makeup. It embodies much more than just an uncrackable formula. At its core, it is a profound historical artifact, a tangible reminder of a turbulent past. Firstly, Greek fire holds immense historical significance. This incendiary substance was a weapon that twice saved Constantinople from falling into the hands of Arab conquerors during the 6th and 7th centuries. These victories carried monumental weight as they effectively halted the expansion of the Islamic Caliphate into southeastern Europe during a period when the Byzantine Empire teetered on the brink of collapse. Who can truly say how the map of current Europe might look today, if not for those destructive jets of flame unleashed from the siphons of Kalinnik? These fiery streams decisively shaped the course of history, securing the survival of the Eastern Roman Empire, a bastion that protected the continent from Eastern invasions for centuries. Greek fire became a symbol of resilience, an unwavering defender of the borders of Christendom amidst relentless threats from distant armies. Second, Greek fire is an invaluable technological heritage. It represented an advanced frontier of pre-industrial military chemistry and engineering, decades or even centuries ahead of its time. Its sophistication demonstrates that Byzantine scientists and engineers possessed a high level of scientific knowledge, rivaling and surpassing any technological achievements of their era. The modern incendiary devices, such as flamethrowers or napalm, directly descend from this ancient invention, echoing the principles laid out in Byzantine innovations. The mastery behind Greek fire reveals a scientific and engineering prowess, rooted in the knowledge inherited from the Greco-Roman tradition, reflecting the ingenuity and intellectual refinement of a civilization that continued to push the boundaries of technology long before the advent of the Industrial Revolution. Finally, Greek fire is an enduring cultural symbol that has penetrated the collective consciousness of humanity. It embodies the idea of a miraculous weapon, a pinnacle of military ingenuity capable of altering the fate of nations. Over the centuries, it has become a metaphor for secret knowledge, a mysterious and powerful enigma from the distant past that continues to fascinate writers, historians, and filmmakers. Its legendary status fuels countless stories and artistic representations, serving as a timeless reminder of the dangerous brilliance of ancient technological mastery. The story of Greek fire is a captivating narrative of human genius intertwined with despair, war, and secret science, illustrating how fragile even the most formidable know-how can be, lost to time despite its might. This historical saga reminds us that even the mightiest empires and most fearsome weapons are not immune to the sands of time. Eventually, they fade into oblivion, leaving behind only echoes of their former greatness, echoes of the flames that once illuminated the dark waters of the Bosporus and decided the destinies of countless civilizations. Thank you for dedicating your time to exploring this fascinating mystery of military history. If your journey into the past has been engaging, consider delving further into these intriguing stories of technological innovation and historical upheavals, which have profoundly shaped our world. Your interest and attention are the greatest rewards for the effort invested in exploring this extraordinary chapter of human ingenuity and resilience.